Hello guys, and welcome to yet another video here in June where finally, I'm telling you guys, happy Pride Month. So in case anyone doesn't know, I got some gay in me, and I'm using the festivities as an excuse to tell everyone about it, because I'm explosive, and finally have an excuse to explode about something other than cute animals. So, without further ado, I'm pansexual, and as a pansexual, I want to say some things. So, first of all, I just want to say that being a little gay is fine. It's not just fine, but it's really fun too. I remember watching one of Michi's videos, that's Twisted Disaster, in case you've never heard of her, I'll link her down below. She was explaining something about being bisexual. She's bi, as you might have guessed, but I think it was actually her coming out story video, I'm not entirely sure. But she was explaining that when you're bi and you have a boy or girlfriend, you don't just suddenly become not bi because you chose a person of one sex or the other. You're still bi, but we'll talk about that in a second. But she was explaining how it strengthened her relationship with her boyfriend, now husband, because he'd point out cute girls, he's straight, and she'd agree about their cuteness, and they'd have conversations about how cute the girls were, and for some reason I really liked that story. I thought it was adorable. It also makes perfect sense. I mean, being pan is just being a fancier bi person. I think damn near everyone's cute. I have entire conversations with my best friends about how cute that dude is or that girl is, one of them being straight and the other one gay. It's really fun. The only sad part is all the girls I know and have met are ridiculous, and although they're cute, I might just kill them if I had to spend more than 5 minutes talking to them at a time. That's always fun. So I wanted to know where the whole idea that pan and bi people choose eventually came from anyways, because it's untrue. I mean, those terms relate to and only to sexual attraction, and you can be sexually attracted to more than one person, even if you love only one. My mom and I were actually talking about that one evening. She has a habit of oogling superheroes and male protagonists and stuff in movies and whatnot. She calls them pretty, and I'm a little asshole, so I tend to mockingly tell her to stop cheating on Dad. It's always a good night when I get to do that, but anyways. She tells me that she lets the characters get her started, and then gets Dad to satisfy her. And I'm like, man, that makes perfect sense. And it's actually a perfect example of what I'm talking about. See, sometimes we're sexually attracted to all sorts of people, but we find that one person that we really want to be romantically affiliated with. I mean, polyamorous people are just proof that we can and have been sexually and even romantically attracted to more than one person at once. And before you dispute it, they exist. Hell, I was with one for a time. That's a weird story for another video, though. On another similar note, I'd like to mention that sexuality is a spectrum, and I am a perfect example of that fact. So I wasn't actually aware of the idea of sexuality until very recently. It was about the time that I got into middle school that I figured out that was a thing that existed. It was a very gradual realization that came with some minor research, so I can't pinpoint exactly when I figured it out. Now, my uncle is gay. He's very openly gay, and he has been for as long as I can remember. Even as teeny little me, I figured that he liked guys. It's through him that I have two other uncles who kind of grew to be like family to the rest of us. They're great. I love them to bits. Now, when I was little, it never dawned on me that there was anything weird or different about my uncles being a couple, which I also didn't know until recently, but I always thought that was the case when I was small. It was just a normal part of my life at that point. I never considered that they were any different, that there'd be a whole different name for it, my parents being heterosexual and they being homosexual. I mean, it makes some sort of sense now that I think about it, but what does it matter to teeny little old me that someone likes someone else? That's it. And honestly, that's still all it is. When I was little, I was your average tiny little child. I had my first crush in kindergarten on a kid who also happened to be my best friend at the time. It was a mutual crush, but that was it. It lasted until about 3rd grade when he disappeared. Looking back, I think he was autistic and was pulled out of school on account, but I can't be sure about that. It was at this point in my life that I was straight, as most kids probably are. You know, that's just kind of how it is sometimes. But after he disappeared, I didn't get another crush until 5th grade when my best friend moved into school. It's really funny. We were actually only together for about a week. We went on one date to the school's Valentine's Day dance before we mutually broke up, and we've been best friends ever since. He's amazing. Over the coming years, I slowly just started developing my own sexual interests. First, it was mostly guys, and then suddenly I was liking some girls too. I decided that I was probably bi. I came out my freshman year, And if you're new to this channel and don't know, freshman year was the peak of my depressive phase. Suicidal and in daily emotional pain, I was very broken. It was one day in a fit of sadness and depression and anger that I kind of blurted it out. I was honestly probably trying to use it as some sort of excuse to leave the conversation because I was so uncomfortable about talking about what I was feeling. But this time, my parents knew. It was a great day. So eventually I got out of that funk and I did some soul searching in the form of not giving a crap for a while. And at some point I decided that it really didn't matter to me. I just liked you if I liked you, and that was it. It was then that I came to the realization that I decided I was pansexual, and here we are. So if I like you, and that's just really how it should be all around. From an evolutionary standpoint, gay sex makes no fucking sense. I will give anybody that, because after all, 2 women nor 2 men can make a baby. Only a man and a woman. Romantically, however, the connection is similar and sometimes the same. Relationships are a personal thing. They vary from person to person. They change and shift and even vary from relationship to relationship in the same person. Another common argument that I have heard over the past few days of watching a lot of different channels and things in Pride Month and whatnot is that homosexuality doesn't exist in wildlife, so how does it make sense to allow it in our human world? First of all, the thing that separates humans from animals is our ability to make conscious choices and be smart and tolerant of things and make innovative advances and whatnot. Second of all, homosexuality does exist in the animal world. Like, literally, just go do a Google search. I mean, I literally just did it while writing the script. Look it up. Look up, do animals have gay sex? There's an article from BBC as the first link right at the moment. And only a few links down, a super interesting one from Natural Geographic that kind of explores the reasons animals and humans both might have gay sex. It's about time for me to go, but I want to leave you with one more thing because I think it's kind of funny. So the abortion issue is getting really big, and I just want to say something. The easiest way to avoid abortion is to avoid babies, but humans kind of like to have sex sometimes. So you know what the easiest way to avoid babies is without avoiding that sex that a lot of us kind of like is? Having gay sex. Anyhow, that's the video. Have a wonderful day, my munches, and I'll catch you on the flip side. Hello guys, this is Future Carolyn. So while I was editing this stuff and drawing the thumbnails for the video, excuse the motors in the background, but as I was drawing the thumbnails for the video, I had a thought, and I was like, there's some other things I want to put on here. You see, I have an older brother. His name is Felix. That's not his real name, but that's the name that I call him anyways, so here we are. So he happens to be trans and asexual and bisexual. No, I'm being dumb. He's an asexual biromantic. There are too many terms. I don't understand how to say them, apparently. But anyway, so he's an asexual, biromantic, transgender human being. That's what I was trying to say. Anyways, so he has a couple of posts on his DeviantArt that's about Pride, and I thought it would be cool to read them because they bring up a lot of interesting things. So we have Let's Talk Pride, and then Let's Talk Pride, a follow-up. His titles are amazing, aren't they? So there were a couple of comments and things that I thought were interesting, and a lot of the stuff that he said, I feel like a lot of people who are part of Pride should know. So I'll give some thoughts at the end, like I did with all of my thoughts before this one, and we'll read this out. So it says, to be honest, Pride and Pride Month confused me. Everybody has a sex, a gender, a sexual orientation, and a romantic orientation, right? That's a whole list. Wait, is it sexist to include sex in the list? He's a jokester. So why are those things the defining character traits of some people to the point that they're included at the very top of a lot of people's introductions on their profile? Why are they so proud of it? I'm a sex who feels like a differing gender. Do I have to refer to myself as transgender, or can I just say that I'm a gender? Is it a form of denial? A lie? Will it offend anyone? And what really is the big difference about bi and pan? I understand that panromantic doesn't care about gender, but there are only 2 sexes, so how does that work with sexual orientation? Does gender play a big enough role in sex to turn somebody off? I'm asexual myself with no libido whatsoever, so the whole topic is a big mystery to me. If these questions offend anyone, sorry, that's not my intention. I support equality and acceptance. Everyone should be allowed to be themselves. Which is great. So there's a little bit of a comment thread. A whole bunch of comment threads. But I'll read out the first one, because I actually read it and I thought it was really interesting. So it's a whole conversation. So we'll have commenter 1 and Felix, right? So that it's a little easier to understand. So commenter 1 says, I had most of those questions before, and after I realized I was bi, I only recently internalized why everyone should be proud of who they are in a society that told you for years that what you are is invalid, then a mental illness, then an immoral choice. There should be pride in not being put down and looked down on. I can't really say anything about the transgender question, but the difference between bi and pan is that if you're bisexual, you're attracted to only men and women. As pan, you'll be attracted to the whole spectrum of gender and other of the like. At least that's the description my pan friend gave me. So Felix says, wow, that's a good explanation. I still don't understand why it's this important to some, but at least I understand why they're proud of it now. Thanks. So gender does affect sexual attraction, huh? And so commenter 1 says, I'm sure it does in some capacity, but it's different for different people. For example, I have a friend I had developed a crush on until I found out that they were non-binary, and my feelings sort of started to wane. But other people, including one I had actually talked to recently, had liked someone online they originally thought were one gender, and when they found out otherwise, the attraction was the same. So it varies. And Felix says, if you want to find the correct terms for yourself, you really gotta research it, huh? And I'm over here like, well, apparently so. So now we shall read Let's Talk Pride, a follow-up, for it is following up. So apparently in the comments to his last journal, he was mentioning creating pride-related art involving his characters. So I'm sure that a lot of you don't know, but Felix created an entire species, and he's apparently been working on it for years. We had a whole conversation once about how in kindergarten he was coming up with this species. So, like, it's a whole thing. They're called dagger claws, and they're really, really interesting creatures. They're very cool. He says he likes to create them in things that are based in science. Like, it's possible that they could exist even though they don't exist, if that makes any sense. So we had a conversation once, I think it was before he put out these journals, but I'm not sure because at the time I hadn't completely figured out Eclipse. For months I haven't figured out how to find things that people I watch post, and I figured it out literally today. But he was talking to me about how he thought it would be cool to do some pride-related art with his characters where, like, each of them have the flag colors and whatnot. Like, KX is his self-insert character, so he'd be the asexual, biromantic dude, you know, yada, 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 yada. So he starts off his journal with, in the comments to my last journal, I mentioned I was considering to create pride-related art involving my characters. And he continues with, the main reason was the bandwagon. Honestly, same, bro, same. Events are a pretty good way to get some attention, just like fan art. But while the temptation is there, that's not who I am. That's not who my characters are. I don't want them to be known for their sexuality or gender. Those things aren't a big deal in their world, nor are they in mine. Don't get me wrong, I support equal rights, and I think nobody should be judged for who they are. Deviating from the norm shouldn't be a big deal, and that's exactly why I decided against pride art. The other day, I saw a lesbian couple holding hands and kissing. They didn't make a show of it, didn't wear any pride support shirt, nothing of the like. Instead, they were just perfectly normal, and nobody around batted an eye. And that's how I'd like to support pride. It's not about showing off your preferences with fancy flags, it's about showing the world it's perfectly normal to be different. You can be present without shoving it into people's faces. The bandwagon tempted me, but I will continue to support equality the way I always have. By drawing and writing these characters, that may be straight, gay, bi, pan, A, or anything on the spectrum. It's part of who they are, but it doesn't define them. They are accepted as such. And then he has in parentheses, except for Naroxo. Can't pronounce thing. Except for Naroxu. And non-con is not cool, dude. And then he has a picture of Naroxu, and if you don't know, Naroxu is he's an interesting character. So down in the comments, there's a cute little conversation that I found. So, we have, this isn't the same commenter, but we're going to call them commenter 1 again anyway. So it says, honestly, after the attitudes flowing this month, I'm so glad that this wasn't some heterosexual pushing anti-pride journal. There's some serious aggression this year, and I'm all for parades and so on, but I am not for the hate and vitriol this year. So Felix says, nah, man, woman Apache, I'm not anti-anything, and honestly, I think a little chill is what this Pride Month needs. Same. We need some chill in our lives. So I was like, man, it's been super aggressive this month. You hear that Nazis are rallying to petition a Pride Parade in August for straight pride? So Felix says, rolls eyes. People don't get the point of Pride Parades, do they? But hey, why not let them have a straight parade? As long as they're fucking peacefully. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Haha. Oh, wait. These are the haters we're talking about? And then there's one more reply. I haven't read this one. If I can find him. Oh, goodness. There are a bunch of replies. Anyways. So it says, these are Nazis. They can't be peaceful. They try to make you join them or die being against them. Well, most are. I've seen plenty of hetero pride with questionable people. Confederate flag used for hetero pride flag a few times. Oof. So he sighs. Felix sighs. He says, well then, I mean, I don't mind straight people wanting a piece of the cake and celebrate too. Kind of part of equal rights, I think. But yeah, there's a difference between wanting a part of the cake and wanting to take the whole cake because you're confident the other party doesn't deserve it. And commenter 1 says, it's more like homophobe pride at the moment. Felix is like, I wonder what causes the negative wave this year. Got any clues? And they have a whole conversation all about it. The last comment from commenter 1 is neo-Nazis on the rise and people having been getting more rights. Can't let the LGBT actually get human treatment. So blah, 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 blah. If we can just click off the comments and go back up. So I think that Felix has a really great point that Pride's purpose is just to be proud of not being as horribly injusticed as we were before, because not 50 years ago gay kids were getting killed over being gay, you know, like, it was awful, and it's a lot better now, but there are things still happening, and the point of Pride isn't to rub it in people's faces, it's just to be happy that specifically isn't happening anymore, and to move forward with what's going on, and the best way to support Pride is to just say it's okay to not be normal, saying that the normal is being heterosexual, you know, such and such and such. So I apologize for future me having to come in here. I've never done that before, but yeah, future me wanting to say some junk. I'm sure Felix may or may not appreciate this. I'm sure anyone on my Facebook won't appreciate this, but here we are. Thanks, whoever it is you are, for watching. I appreciate you hanging around to the end of the video, despite the end of the video technically already happening. I guess this is just the second end of the video. So welcome to the second end of the video. You're about to have to leave because the video is about to end. I've already told you about commissions and links and crap, and they're all in the description. You can check if you want, I don't care. but thanks y'all for watching, my munches. And I guess I will have to see you next time. Goodbye.